Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we should be finishing up our match play application. This should be part 6 and the final one. Anything after this is just going to be cosmetic, making the application look a bit more aesthetic. So today we're going to be working on WebSockets. So what WebSockets are, they're a type of communication, computer communication, in which what's the best way to explain this? Let's explain this. Okay, so you guys should understand how the HTTP protocol works. So basically you have a request from the client to the server, and then the server sends the response back to the browser, to the client. Well, in WebSockets, the difference is we're not constantly requesting things from the server and waiting. Here we have a constant open line between the website that we're creating and our server. So it kind of just works together. So we have imagine like a phone communication line where the browser, when you make that call, so let's say you type a number in, you call the number on your phone, and when you call that number on your phone, you're calling the browser, and once that line is open, you're able to just talk back and forth without having to, every time you have to say something, you have to dial that number again and request the user pick up their phone and respond to you again. In this one, the channel is open once the socket's been created, and you're able to respond back and forth with that user, with the other person. Yeah, so the other user. So this is how instant messaging would work. So traditionally the browser would call the website for a piece of information, but here the WebSocket just keeps that line open, and this will allow the user just talk back and forth, and this is what makes online chatting or just text messaging, not online messaging, let's put it that way, quite possible, because that line is constantly open. Now there is a piece of code you can write to sign out and end the connection, and we're going to talk about all that in today's lesson. So with all that said, let's jump right into the project. All right, so actually looking back at my other project, what I also forgot to mention was we're going to be adding a news feature to it, so which is just a news API that we're going to implement. So that's going to be done later on. That's not that it's more of an amenity that we're adding to the application. It's nothing major. And before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out. I'm saying quick shout out like I'm a huge YouTube channel, but I want to give a shout out to this channel here. Let's see. Let's go YouTube really quickly. And I believe it's coding with, there we go. And I got a lot, yeah, this website here. Let's see if I can find the chat app. There we go. So I got a lot of inspiration from, there it is. So I got a lot of let's just mute that, and let's see if we can, there we go. No thanks. So I got a lot of inspiration from this this channel. It was a big help. I was able to learn a lot by watching them. Now I did implement a lot of my own features to it, but I was able to learn a lot about WebSockets and how to implement it into my own project. So just a quick shout out to them. My channel is really small, so it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter as much. It's not like I can actually give him a shout out, but I do give credit to where credit is due, meaning I did learn a lot watching his channel to help with this project. Now the code he uses and the code I use are going to be a little bit different because I found some things I found a way to code that was a bit easier for me to implement than what he was doing. But at the end of the day, it's the result that matters, and both of our applications work perfectly for our intended purposes. But like I said, I ramble on too much. Let's just get right into the application. Okay, so what we want to do first is, I believe, so we want to go into the index.js, but I believe we've already installed the dependencies we need. So let's go into package.json. And for here, what we're going to need is WebSocket. So just do npm install WebSocket. I believe it's just WS, or is it WebSocket? So you just Google that. We're going to be using WebSocket. Let's see, actually. So npm installed WebSocket. So interesting. Let's see, npm install ws. Yeah, so go ahead, install WebSocket and ws. Not clear what the difference is, but I know I'm using ws. So just go ahead and install both just in case it comes up later. So we're going to be needing WebSocket, WebSocket, and let's see something else we haven't used yet, so we can no, that's pretty much it. That's all we're gonna need. So let's run the backend again. Run start. Cool. So that's all we're gonna be needing. Let's go back to index.js. Okay, and now we're just gonna be doing this. We're gonna keep this commented out. So for const ws, we're gonna require WebSocket ws. We're going to be needing JSON web token, and everything but ws should have been used in our other controllers. So all we're doing is just bringing them back here. We're going to need that secret that we used before. The user model, let's see if we already created that. Yes, we created the user model. So we're going to be needing the user model from our model MV. I can't speak, MVC. So we're going to be needing our user model, our user.js from the model folder. And now we're going to be needing, actually, so we haven't created this message yet, so we're going to create this later on. But let's just go ahead and start. So what we want to do is come over to our Express server here, and we want to say, we just want to give it a const server is equal to this, and that's all we're doing. We're just giving this whole Express server a variable, so we're just calling it server. Nothing really major going on there. So now what we want to do is come down here and say const wss is equal to new, and wss would be WebSocket server, is equal to new ws.server. Okay, and we're going to be saying server, and all this is saying is we're creating a WebSocket server by passing an HTTP server as our parameter. So we're creating this server, passing in this HTTP server, which is here, this Express server, as our parameter, and that's pretty much it. So now what we want to do is we want to be able to create online, well, we want to be able to show our online users. So we're going to say online users, but we want to use the data structure of set in order to store them as unique characters. So what we're going to say is new set and that. Now we want to do the same thing for user map. So we're going to create a constant called user map, and here rather than set, we're going to be saying new map. And it's the same, it's just a data structure that allows us to save things in key pair variables. So that's the only difference. Here it's going to be unique, and here's key pair. That's it. So now to turn the web server on, we're going to be saying connection. You're going to be naming this connection, and then we're going to say it's asynchronous, and then we're going to say connection and request object. And here we're going to be returning, well, let's explain this first. So here what we're saying is we're setting up an event listener for the connection event of our WebSocket server. So when a connection is established, it calls back the callback says it's connected, and we're going to be using two parameters, which are the connection and the request object for this. So basically, when the connection is on, there's a callback function, and a callback is going to say const cookies is equal to, if I can type, is equal to request.bodies request.headers.cookies. Well, dot cookie, singular. So dot cookie, and here we're getting a cookie. We're getting a cookie extracted from the HTTP request. So we're just getting our cookies just like we would with the authorization controller. So we have that. Now we're gonna give it some logic and say, if we do have these cookies, then we want to be able to say const auth token match is equal to cookie.match, and I'll explain this in a second. And we're gonna say auth token, actually I believe it's this. Let's see, auth token is equal to let's see if I can remember this correctly. If not, I'm probably gonna have to just copy and paste it from the other one. Yeah, I don't. So basically we're gonna be matching it with a set of, like, let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Oh, cool. So yeah, there we go. So we're just gonna be grabbing this and come back here. Yeah, so we're just gonna put this here, and we're basically, all this is saying is cookies. If it matches with any of these with auth token, then we want to say const auth token is equal to auth token match. So if there's an auth token match, then auth token match. So we're picking the first. We're picking one in the array. So we're going. The arrays go from 0, 1, 2, blah blah blah. So we're picking one. If not, then it's null. So let's see what we did wrong here. This should not be there. Cool. So here we're saying if we're looking for auth token match, we're trying to see if our cookies match auth token, and if it does, we're saying auth token is equal to auth token match. Auth token is equal to the logic saying if there's an auth token match, then we're taking auth token match 1, which is representing basically the second part of the array, and if there's no auth token match, then it's just going to be null. Cool. So now that's not all. Now we're going to expand on that logic and say, if we have auth token now we can grab our decoded token. So let's just say try catch, because try catch saves us a headache. So now we can say try const decoded token is equal to, now we're going to be using JWT verify, and all this is basically what we did in authenticate. We're just redoing this over here. So JWT.verify auth token, and we're going to be grabbing our secret. So when we're able to decode it, now we can get our user ID. So const user ID is equal to decoded token dot user ID. Cool. So now that we have the user ID, we're gonna say const user. Yeah, user is equal to await. Now we're gonna be using this user from the model, and we're gonna say await user dot find by ID, and we're gonna be using user ID. So this is stuff we've seen before. We've done it literally in AuthController. We're just redoing it. So if I go to AuthController, it should be the same nonsense. So, well, not nonsense, but the same code here. So now we're just gonna keep replicating and say if user, just like we did here. So except now we're saying if user instead of if no user. So if user, so if we do have that user, we're gonna say const, we're gonna get the first name is equal to user. So we're gonna save that the first name. What's going on here? Okay, let's keep going. So now we want to open that connection and say connection.userID is equal to user ID, and connection.username is equal to first name. Let's see. Cool. All right. We'll fix that in a second. So here we're saying if we do have this user, right, we want to say the const first name is equal to user. So let's do this. So the first name is equal to user, connection.userID. So our user ID, which is going to become very important when we build out our front end, we want to save it as user ID, and the connection.username, we want to save it as our first name. And now for catch error, actually let's keep adding to it. So now we want to be able to say if there's a user, then we want online user dot add user ID. So we want to save that online user, which is the set. If basically what this is saying is if the user is online, save that user ID within the set called online user, and now we can respond to the browser showing which users are online via the user ID. So this is all we're saying here. And then here we can say user map dot set user ID. Now we're just gonna do this user ID and username. And the username is going to be equal to the first name within the database. So here we're adding user to the map with their user ID as the key. So the user ID here is going to be the key, and that's pretty much all we're doing here. Now, what do we want to do? We want to broadcast this user ID saying, we want to broadcast the online users saying, hey, this is the updated online users to everyone that's connected to this, to every connected client, basically. So everyone that's connected, we want to update and say, hey, here's the people who are online, and that's pretty much it. So in the front end, we can now say, hey, this signifies the people that are online with this dot, and D signifies the people that are not online with this dot. So this is the piece of code I'm about to write is what's going to signify that. So we're going to say broadcast. Music licensing. I was doing so well with the spelling. So broadcast online users. So now with an error, we can now say console.error, same thing, error decoding token, or actually let's just say token not found, and we're going to return it as an error. and we're also going to be returning connection.close. So we're going to be closing that connection. Let's see. Okay, you know what? We'll just keep going, and then I believe I know what the problem is, but let me just make sure. So here, let's end this by let's finish this up by sending the connection, right? So we have blah blah blah. Let's come up here. Music licensing. And let's send this connection. So we're gonna say connection.send. So it's basically like saying res.send. So we're responding. So connection.send. And here we're gonna be sending JSON.stringify because it said type string. So it's the stringify. Let's see, type. We're just gonna call it online users. So we're sending the online user, and is it online user or online users? Let's keep it as online users. Yeah, type. We're sending the online users, and this should be a string. So we're sending online users data. So the data we're going to be receiving at the front end is going to be, let's see, data is going to be actually array dot from. So we're receiving from online users dot. We're going to be mapping it, and we're going to say user ID. And here it's going to say user map dot get user ID. Let's see, where do we mess up? Of course. So we're still not in the clear. Let's see, just online users, data array from online users dot map user ID. Oh, I see. This is not highlighted. So this should be WSS. Let's see. Yep, that fixed it. So once again, it had to do with spelling, of course. So yeah, always go back and check your code. So, but basically that's all we have to do right now. This is the crux of the issue. So we're just doing this, and right now our let's close out of this. Right now our WebSocket has been created. That's it. Like, this is all we have to do to create the WebSocket. So now let's go over to our client, and source is going to be let's go over to HeroPage. Okay, let's go to HeroPage, and yeah, now we're going to be working with online, right? Let's see. Yeah, so here we should have an online, there we go, this. So we should have something that tells us when someone's online. So let's come over to this, and we're gonna start with the case online rather than basically we want to be able to sort by online users. So here is going to be case, and this case is going to be online, and pretty much doing the same thing that we did to all of them. So we're going to return data slice, dot slice, and here we're going to say dot sort, and we're sorting same thing, A, B. And here we're going to say const is A online is equal to online users dot include, and we're going to create something for that really quickly, includes A dot user. And here we're going to say const is B online, and we're going to say online users dot includes B dot user. And here what we're doing is we're checking whether each element A and B in the array is present in the online users array, and we're indicating whether that user is online or not. So well, there's still more logic to go here, but what we can do, actually, let's finish that up real quickly. Let's just go here and write out the logic. So if is A online and B and is B not, and if A is online and B not online, then return -1. So if A is online and B is not, then it returns -1, meaning A should come before B. That's practically all it's saying. Else if is A online, so if A is not online, okay, there should be parentheses, and there should be parentheses. So if A is not online and B is online, is B online, then we want to say return 1. What is going on? Cool. So we want to return 1. And what this is saying is if A is not online, B is online, return 1, meaning B is greater than, B should come before A. So B should be the one that comes before A. That's all it's saying. And the first one is saying A should come before B. And now we can say else. So we're finishing it out. If both online or both offline, then we're just gonna apply the certain criteria, meaning return first name and compare it to the other first name. So we're just going to be doing the local compare for if both are online or both are offline, and this would be return a dot first name dot local compare, and we're just comparing it to B dot first name.
Music licensing reimagined.
That should do it. So basically we're just saying if both are online or both are offline, then we're using local compare, which just sorts them based on the first name property. That's it. So now that we have that, we're now able to use that in we're now able to use the online sorting option. So let's see. We have online users here. So we already have this array, use state array set up. So now let's see. Okay, so here we want to come right after this p tag. And after this p tag, we want to create another div. So this p tag, then a div. Cool. And this div is going to say class name, pattern of 5, flex items center, justify center, and we're gonna have a key that says profile dot id. Cool. And here we're just gonna use this to show the online users. So online user dot includes, and we're gonna say profile.user. So if there's a profile.user, then we want to say span. This is going to be class name, and we're just going to give it a margin left of 1, text of green, 500. And here we're going to be using symbols. So this is going to represent a red. Well, no, green. So at pound sign 8226 and this. Cool. And span, and then we're gonna say this. Wait a minute. Okay, so if there's a profile user, then we're gonna have text green with a green dot. If not, then we're gonna have span, and gonna be same class name, and this class name is gonna be margin left 1, text. Here's gonna be text red of 500, because this is gonna say if there's no user, 500, and here is gonna be at, so at, not at, and hash 8226. Is it 8226? I guess, yeah, because that's just a dot. Yeah, so it's 8226 because this just signifies a dot, and then the text color is gonna say what kind of color it is. And yeah, that's it. So what this is saying is, if there's an online user, then show me under their profile or at the bottom of their profile card, show a green dot if they're online. If they're not, show a red dot if they're not online. That's practically all we're doing. Okay, so now if we go over to Chrome, as you can see, none of these users are online, so it's gonna show me a red dot. Cool. So now what we want to do, rather than this console log, what we're gonna say is sorted data dot length. If it's greater than profiles per page, then we want to say so here's we're basically just giving it pagination here. So here we want to say div class name, padding of 3, flex, justify center, cool. And here we want to add stack spacing, so the space between is going to be 2. And if you don't really know what this is, this part you just have to go to the documentation in Material UI, because it's its own type of like styling. But stack spaces, so just look up what stack is and it'll show you. And then pagination, that one's pretty common. And so the count is going to be, now we have to write the logic, so math.ceil. We're going to be using sorted data, and we're going to say sorted data dot length divided by profile per page. Let's do this.
Music licensing reimagined.
So now we can go down here, and we're going to say page, and this page is going to be current page. Cool. And on change, we're just going to give it on change. So every time we click on the pagination, it's going to be handle page change. So let's go to our thing and let's see, nothing happened. Okay, that is interesting. Let's do this so it's a lot easier for us to see. Okay, that's not what we wanted. Let's bring this here. Let's bring this here.
Music licensing reimagined.
Cool. So all right, so with pagination, stack, blah blah blah, sorted data. So why aren't we seeing anything here? Sorted data dot length is greater than profiles per page, and then class name pen 3, justify center, stack spacing, blah blah blah, pagination, blah blah blah, unchanged. Okay, so using common sense here, I'm going to assume that the reason being is because, there we go, because the page isn't full. So we said we gave it a profile per page of I believe 9. Yeah, let's just make sure it was 9 before. Yeah, 9. So basically this isn't up to 9, it's just 2. So it's not going to show you the pagination. However, if I said profile per page is 1, then it's going to have 2. So that's practically it. So there we go. And the way we're getting that is just by saying, hey, for the pagination count, we're using math.ceil. And like it says, it just returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to its numeric argument. So it's rounding down. So it's gonna math.ceil, and we're gonna grab sorted data dot length divided by profiles per page. So sorted data dot length. So whatever the length is of the data that's returning back to us, that we're getting from the server, we're going to divide it by the profiles per page. And the page is going to be current page. So we're on the current page. And on change is just this, it's this logic here. So you're taking a value and set current page to the value. So that's practically it. So we're done with this portion. And that's all our online is saying. So it's saying if someone's online, show me that they're online. So now we can now open up Safari. So if I go to Safari right now and I search up, what's this one? Let's go to Chrome. It's 5173. So now I go back to Safari and I go to localhost 5173. Cool. Now if I log in as test2 at test.com, test2. Now let's see. So now if I go back to Chrome and I inspect it. Okay, now that's peculiar. So after looking this over, seems like the problem is this broadcast online user. So I did not create the function for that. I didn't declare that function. So let's do that right now. We can do it right below this. So let's just go back here. So we still have Chrome opened up there. Let's go back over here. Let's just make this bigger. And now what we want to do is declare that function. So we're going to say function. You can make it arrow function if you want, but we're just going to say broadcast online users. And we're going to say WebSocket server clients dot for each. So we're going to be using the for each method, and we're going to use client. And this is going to say if the client is ready, so ready state is equal to open, ws.open, then I'm going to run through what this piece of code is doing. Client.send JSON.stringify. And we're just going to be sending the data type is going to be online users. Data is going to be array from online users. We're going to map through it. User ID.
Music licensing reimagined.
And this is going to say user map dot get user ID. So this should work. Okay, so what it's saying is we're declaring this broadcast online users, and then for this WebSocket server instance, we're going to be using the for each method to iterate over each connected client. So everyone that's connected, we're going to iterate through it. And once we do that, we're going to check in this one, the ready state. We're going to check the readiness to see if the current client, the client here, this client is open. Meaning if it's open, then messages can be sent and received and communicated between the clients. So if the client is ready, basically if this is true, so if the client ready state is equal to ws.open or websocket.open, then we're going to be sending a JSON message to the client that includes the info about the online user. So the type is going to be online users, and the data we're going to be getting the array and then mapping through it, and yeah, basically this. So okay, so now that we have this function, it's still not going to work. Why? Because when we come up here, we did not initialize our socket in our front end also, so we also have to do that. So I thought we did that on our on our last video, but we didn't after taking a look at it. So that's what we have to do. So we can just set that up right here is fine.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay, so what we want to do here is initialize the WebSocket. So we're going to be saying const initialize WebSocket, and this is going to say const socket is equal to new new WebSocket. There we go. Yeah, new WebSocket, and here we're just gonna say ws localhost, and since my server is running on 10,000, so it's gonna be localhost 10,000 /user. Cool. So now we're gonna say socket.onOpen. There we go. And we're just going to be console logging it. And say WebSocket connection open.
Artlist.io.
Cool. Okay. Let's do this. So let's say socket.onMessage. So we're going to be having console. So if we have a message, it's going to say web socket message received, right? And it's just going to be the data that's being received that's going to be console logged. And then received Okay, I guess I just can't spell. Just leave it that way. So here we're gonna say const received message is equal to JSON dot parse, because JSON dot parse we stringified it on the backend side. So if received message dot type is equal to online users, then we want to say set online users. So this is the part we were really missing. Received message dot data dot map, and we're going to map to the user, and it's going to be user dot user ID. Cool. So okay, just let's round it up and let's finish it up. So here we can just say socket dot on close, and if it's closed, if our socket is closed, then we're gonna say console dot log web socket connection is closed. So this, okay, now we want to initialize it. So initialize WebSocket. Boom. Okay, see. Now, whatever we did here in terms of, because I when I was trying to debug it, I asked it to console log the cookies. So that's why it's working now. So it's fine. So yeah, this should work. Given that worked immediately, this should definitely work. So let's see if this works. And let's go over to Chrome. Let's minimize this real quick. And let's log out. So now when we log in, so we're going to log in as test at test.com and test.
Music licensing
So
reimagined.
let's see if we're able to get this to work. Now we have to go into Safari, and we're going to go into localhost 5173 test2 at test.com test2. There we go. As you can see, now we have this green dot saying that the user test is online. And if we go back to Chrome, it's going to tell us test2 is online. And this is simultaneously because that WebSocket is open. So it's telling us that, hey, this user is online. So now if we go back to Safari and we log out, let's just close out of it.
Artlist.io.
Cool. And we're back in Chrome. If we refresh this, why is it saying test2 is still online? Okay, so we're gonna have to work on that.
Music licensing reimagined.
Yeah, so this is the only problem now. So I guess in the back end, I didn't create the on close. It just shows that it's open. So we can actually build that out now. So, okay, so just to make things a little bit faster, right here, I'm just gonna paste the unclose, and it's like a couple of lines. So I can just run it with you guys. So here, connection on close, we're gonna say connection on, and then here close, and this is gonna say online users dot delete. So all we're doing is basically the antithesis of whatever we did here. So here it's gonna say online users dot delete rather than online users where is it, online users dot add. So we're saying online users dot delete connection.user.id, user map.delete, connection.user.id, and broadcast online users. So what I'm saying here is basically remove the user from the set of online users, remove the user from the map, and broadcast the new updated user to all the clients. So if I save this, okay, what is happening? So let's see if we pop it in here. There we go. Yeah. So you just have to pop it within the WebSocket server. So now let's see if I go back to Chrome and I refresh. There we go. Now test2 is no longer active, and that's so. Now let's see if it's simultaneous. So if I go back to Safari and I go to localhost 5173 and I say test2 at test.com test2. So now I'm online. So if I check here, it also says I'm online. So if we go back to test2 says I'm online here, and test says I'm online here. So this is Safari. If I go over to logout and I close up Safari and I quit Safari and I'm back in Chrome, as you can see, simultaneously I'm logged out. So all we needed was that connection close here, and that's all it does. And these are just notes to show you like, hey, this is what it's doing. So we're removing user from online users, we're removing from the map, and we're broadcasting to all the connected users that, hey, this person's offline. So that's the basis of our, so what we can do here is just actually this. There we go. So that's the basis of our WebSocket, and this is just to show who's online. So let's actually go back to Chrome. We can sign out now. Cool. Okay, so that's just to show who's online. So in our next part, so now what we're gonna do is build out our we're gonna build out the UI UX for our messaging. So we're gonna build out our chat interface. All right, guys. So away from the recording, I went back and I updated my UI UX. It looks kind of Not the best, especially when it came to responsiveness. It didn't look that good on smaller screens. So I went back and redid it and added some key features to it also. So with that said, I'm gonna be adding a component to my AuthController, while also adding some key features up here. So first, let's go into our AuthController, and what I want to do now is right here. Let's see, log out, HeroPage. Let's just do it right here. Here's fine. So right before our log out, let's create something called exports.people, and this is gonna export some data for us from our database. And this, you're gonna see what it's gonna be used for. It's gonna be used for a search feature. So basically, when you search a user within your chat, it populates that user, and that way you don't have to see every single individual that is on subscribed to the application on your chat. So you don't have to see, let's say you are compatible with 20 other profiles. You don't want to see all 20 profiles within your chat all the time. You can choose and pick, and it'll just show you people who are also online. So this is what we're going to do right now. So first, let's start off by saying exports dot people. That's what I called it. Exports.people is equal to async request response, and we're going to be using a lot of constructors, data MongoDB constructors here. But just to begin, we're going to say try. So we're going to have the infamous try catch, and here we're going to say const queue, because we're going to be requesting a query. And in the front end, you'll see how we'll set that up. So we're extracting a search query from the request query parameter. So we're saying request.query, so it's a request query parameter, and we're just getting that search query. So we're doing that. And then also what we want to do is const user ID. So we're going to begin our user ID, a request user ID. Cool. And we get this by, as you remember, in our user info and authenticate. That's how we saved it and everything. So that's just all we're doing here. And now we can say let query, if I can type, equal to an empty object. And here we're just making it an empty object because well, this is going to be our default query object. So this is the object we'll be using to filter users based on the criteria we pick. So we're going to be doing that, like query equals this. Now we're going to say if q, so if query, we're going to be searching, we're going to be performing a search query, and we're going to be filtering based on the criteria we want. So here we want to get the name. So what the main point of this is, we want to extract the names of the people in the database, so you can search for anyone in the database and chat with them. So that chat feature works that way. Also, we don't want it to give us our own name in the search, because if we're logged in, we don't want to be able to talk to ourselves. So we can't pick our own selves. It's not going to show us our own name, and we're doing that in the back end, so we don't have to worry about it in the front end. So we don't have to put a filter in the front end again. We just do everything from the back. So if q, then we can say query is equal to what just happened? Let's see. Okay, if q query, okay, is equal to an object, and we're going to be using the and constructor. So we're going to be using the and constructor, and this is just saying basically this is going to be an array, and all this is saying is we're going to have two conditions, so hence why it's and. We're going to have an or constructor, and we're going to have another bit of code that's going to exclude our logged in users. So the and is going to say or, and this is going to be its own array. So we're checking for first name, and it's going to be a regular expression, so it's just regex.
Artlist.io.
So I actually made an error here. So this should be this. Cool. And now this is going to be regex. Cool. And this is going to equal to
Music
Q.
licensing reimagined.
Then we're going to sort it. So sort options. And this is going to be lowercase I. And this is just saying it's a case insensitive search for the first name. So now let's come down here. Actually, that's not going to be there. Okay, so we have first name, and we're done with that. So we can close out. Let's come here. Here, we can come in here and now say, where are we? Else.
Music
Let's see.
licensing
I think I'm missing a one. There's here. There's here. Okay, so this should be here, and now we can write our second condition, and this condition is going to say, open up this object ID, and we're going to say not equal, so not equal
Artlist.io.
new types dot object ID. And this is going to take in user ID. So what we're doing here is we're excluding the currently logged in user. So we're saying,
Artlist.
so yeah, we're saying, this is not going to, the ID is not going to include the user ID. So that way, whatever we send back does not include the user with the same ID as the logged in user. That's pretty much all we're saying here. That's the condition we're giving it here. Okay, so now after that's done, we can come down here, and now we can write the second condition and say else. Did I put this in the same right place again? What's this one for? So we come down here actually, and now we can say else. There we go. So here we're going to be saying if there's no search query, so there's no search, nothing shows up in the search, we're still going to exclude the currently logged in user. So here we're going to say query is equal to ID new types. So pretty much what we have up top.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay, now we want to return it and say const users is equal to await user dot find query ID is 1, first name
Artlist.io.
is 1, and rest dot. Cool. So now we can return that, and here what we're gonna say is console.error
Music licensing reimagined.
error fetching users. Error. Whereas dot status 500 dot JSON error internal
Artlist.io.
server error. Cool. So basically all this is doing is just it's just a database query that's created on whether a search query is provided. So we're just querying our database and sending the result to the front end. That's all we're doing here, and that should be it for this part. So when we do that, now we can come in here and add const search query set search
Music licensing
query
reimagined.
equal to use state, and this should be string, and this const. So we're going to be using all this for that same process. Suggestions, and this should say set search suggestions is equal to use state, and this should be that. And here, let's leave it at this right now. So this is good enough for right now. So now what we want to do is we have, let's see, where can we place it? We can place it right here. So here, right before our connect, what we want to do is gather another use effect. So use effect, create another use effect, and here we're going to say const fetch search suggestions is equal to async. Cool. And now try catch. And here we're going to say const response is equal to await dot get user slash people. And remember when we talked about the query? So now we're going to say query q is equal to so let's use this as backticks actually. Okay, that's fine. Search query. So now we're using that search query we set up here as search query, and that should be it for us. And then down here we can say set search suggestions to response dot data. What happened here? Oh wait, Axios is what I meant to say. Axios.get. Cool. Response dot data. There we go. And now here we can just say console dot error. Let me say error fetching search
Artlist.io.
suggestions. Error. Cool. Okay, so now let's write this little bit of code here that says if search query dot trim does not equal a string, then we want to fetch suggestions. Is it first fetch search suggestions or just? I think it's just fetch suggestions, right? Yeah, it should be search. First of all, let's take this back one. Search fetch search suggestions. There we go. Actually, this should be. That was a mistake I was making. So it should be in here. There we go. So if search query dot trim does not equal the string, then fetch search suggestions. Else set search suggestions to be an empty array, and it's going to be the dependency array is going to have search query within it. All right, so all this is being done for our search input field, which you're going to see once we build out this chat feature. So I know I keep saying that, but trust me, it's coming. We just have to handle a couple of things before we dive right into it. Okay, so now let's build out this return, and let's bring this.
Music licensing
I don't know why that keeps taking it out. let's see. Cool. So this return is going to state, so class name, flex with full. We're going to say height screen, pattern top. We're going to use 16, and that's just so it clears the nav bar. And here we can say div class name, background blue. We're going to use 100, medium. The width is going to, for a medium screen and up, is going to be 2/5. Width here is going to be 2/3.
Artlist.io.
Cool. So as you can see, it's already doing that. Now, actually, we're going to have flex column, overflow is on the y-axis is going to be auto. Now we're going to have div class name, pattern 2 relative, and here we're going to add our input field. So input type is going to be text. The placeholder is going to be search users ... Class name is going to be with full, pattern 2, border, rounded, large, focus, outline, none. Cool. And as you can see, this is that search, that search I was talking about. And now we can actually finish it off by saying value is equal to search query, and on change is going to be event set search query to e.target.value.
Artlist.io.
Cool. So now with that information, what we're going to say now is search suggestions dot length. If it's greater than 0, then we want to state
licensing reimagined.
Div. Cool. So what we want to state here is div class name should have absolute. It should be absolute. The top full, left 0, width left 0, width full, background white, border gray, and this should be 300, rounded, border large. We want the shadow to be medium and the z index to be 10. So now for the logic, it's going to state search suggestions. We're going to map through it. Suggestions.
Licensing reimagined.
And here we're going to say div key is equal to suggestion dot id class name p2 cursor pointer. Yeah, that's about it. Actually, hover background gray 100. And now on click, we can state handle suggestion click suggestion dot
Music licensing
ID.
reimagined.
Let's see where we messed up here. Handle suggestion click. Oh, we didn't close the div. So here we're going to say suggestion. So this suggestion here, dot first name. There we go. So now let's see if it works. Okay. Did we write the logic for that yet though? Oh, I don't think we connected yet. Yeah, I don't think we're connected to the WebSocket yet. Okay, so let's leave it at that. We're not connected to anything yet, so nothing's gonna. Okay. Yeah, nothing's gonna work here yet because we're not connected to anything. So there's nothing gonna be accessed in search users at this point. Okay, so now that we have that, what we want to do is scroll back up here, and we're gonna continue writing logic here. And this logic is gonna be, let's see, up here. Fetch search connections. Okay, cool. So right after this, before connect once more, we can come down here and we can just, now we're gonna write a function for our timestamp. So you know, like if you look at your messaging, anytime a message is sent, there is a little bit of time, whatever, like a timestamp showing this is when the message was sent and received. We're going to be doing that, but we're going to be using info from our timestamp that we saved in the database. So here we're going to say const format timestamp is equal to timestamp.
Music licensing reimagined.
And here we're going to say const date is equal to new date timestamp. So here we're creating a date object from our timestamp, using the timestamp as the argument. And here we're going to say const hours is equal to date. Now get hours. Let minutes equal date dot get minutes. And this is pretty self-explanatory in what we're doing. Here we're going to say minutes is equal to, remember, realize we're using let here, so we're able to change the value of minutes. We're going to say minutes is NaN, so not a number. So if minutes is not a number, we're going to pass minutes here. Then we want it to be 0. Otherwise, we should have it as minutes. Cool. Now we want to get the AM PM, so we're just going to say AM PM. That's fine. Hours. If it's less than 12, if it's greater than or equal to 12, then it's PM. Else, it's AM. Const formatted hours is equal to hours 12
Music licensing reimagined.
There we go. And here we're just making it a 12-hour format. And then here const formatted time, it's going to be formatted hours minutes. Well, actually the minutes is going to have some logic applied to it. So if minutes, let's bring it back in here. So if minutes is less than 10, then I want to bring this back to 0. Else, it's an empty string. I'm going to close that up. And now minutes, and now AM PM.
Music licensing
and lastly, we want to return. So all we just did with formatted time is we just combined hours, minutes, AM, PM, and created a final formatted time as a string. So return formatted time. There we go. Cool. So we're going to be using this later on down there. Actually, let's move this and bring this. And the message. No, just place this here. Cool. Okay. And now we want to deal with this the search results again. So what we want to do now is say const filtered users is equal to online people dot filter, and here we're going to say user dot username to lowercase dot includes
artlist.io
search query to lowercase. Okay, that makes sense. Actually, this is why. Cool. Yeah, I was like, what's going on? So we have that. Okay, so that's good enough. All right, so now we have our filtered users. So all we did was just grab our online people and filter through them. And so now if we go back here, we can now state a suggestion that first name, blah, blah. And once we're done with this div, there we go. Now we can open up, let's see.
artlist.io.
That shouldn't be there. Awesome. So this div, that div, and this div is that. Cool. So we're here, and now we say filtered users dot map. We're mapping user div key is equal to user dot user ID. On click, we're gonna say
music licensing reimagined.
Take this out. Select contact user dot user ID. So on click, select contact user ID, and this is closed. Okay, so the only problem is actually, let's do this over. So div, cool. Now it's going to be key user dot user ID. Okay, on click, awesome. Now it's going to be select contact, and we're going to create that function in a second, user dot user ID. And I'm going to explain what's going on in a second also. And here we're going to be using, we're going to be saying border E, border gray 100, pattern Y of 2, pattern L of 4, flex items center, gap of 2.
Music licensing reimagined.
Space here, plus user dot user ID is equal to selected user IDs. I'm going to use that background of blue, 200 rounded, large with full. Bam. Wait, what happened? Okay. So here what we're saying is for this, anytime we click and select the contact, we want this as its border. So for example, if I search like test2 here and I click on it and it appears here, I want it so that when I click test2 here, there's a blue background on it to show that that user has been selected. But before we do that, we have to write the function for select content. So let's come over to yeah, here's fine. So here we want to write the function for select contact. So we're gonna go ahead and say well, we're gonna be using function. So function select contact is, and we're gonna be using user ID as the argument. And so here we're gonna say try catch, and within the try we're gonna set selected user, well, user ID, user IDs to user ID, and then we're gonna set on red counts previous. Okay, so set on red counts prev, and this is gonna say
artlist.io.
There we go. I'm gonna get the user ID, and this is gonna be 0. Where is it? Oh, why do I keep doing that?
Music licensing reimagined.
Cool. And for catch, and I'm gonna explain this in a second. Console.error. Error. Error selecting contact.
Artlist.io.
Cool. All right, so what this is saying here is basically anytime we select the contact, we're going to be updating the selected user on red message count to 0. So basically on your phone or any type of messaging system you have, anytime you click on the new message you have, if you have 2 new messages, for example, when you click on that message and you read both new messages, it goes back to 0, right? Like it doesn't show that you still have those 2 messages. That's what we're doing here. We also have something called the handleSuggestionClick. That's also going to be taken into user ID. And here what we're going to be saying is select contact is going to be user ID, so we're going to be setting it to the user ID. Set search query, and we're going to be setting that to, actually that's going to be empty, empty string. And here we're going to say set user IDs, and we're going to be using pretty much the same thing. Let's see.
Music licensing reimagined.
Actually, it's not going to be the same thing. So here we're going to be having priv user IDs, and we're going to have an array here that's going to equal priv user IDs user ID. Okay, so for this one, what we're saying is when a user clicks on a suggested contact, we're going to be calling select contact. So we're going to be accessing that select contact. So when we click on the suggestion that comes here, we're pretty much going to be running this code within it. So that's what we're doing. So we're going to set the query to empty, so it goes back to empty. I mean, you can, if you don't want it to be empty, you can just leave it at whatever it is. And then we're going to be lastly, we're going to be adding the selected user to the list of user IDs. So that's pretty much all that's going on here. What's wrong here? Yeah, what did I write?
ArtList.io.
Let's set. Yeah, isn't that what I wrote? Set user ID.
ArtList.io.
That makes more sense. Cool. So that's what we have. So now, when we come back down here, let's see. Let's connect to our database actually. So let's do this. So let's connect to our database.
Music licensing reimagined.
I said that let's connect to the WebSocket and let's see what happens. Okay. Okay, so we got to log in. Let's see. Cool. Now let's see.
ArtList.io.
Huh, that's interesting. That should be working. Let's see. What do we get back? Okay, firstly, let's move all
Music
this
licensing
down here.
reimagined.
For right now, at least. Now, let's see. Are we missing any function? Okay, so it appears I'm missing one more use effect. So let's do this. So let's say use effect. And we're going to say
ArtList.io.
const fetch data is equal to async. I'm going to have try catch. And here we're going to say const offline. So we're going to factor in the people who are offline. Await
Music licensing reimagined.
axiostat get /user /people. Now we're going to say const offline user offline users is equal to offline people.data, and then we're going to filter it p, and we're going to say p dot id
ArtList.io.
does not equal u id. Now we're going to filter this. We're going to say p, and this is going to say user IDs dot includes p dot
ArtList.io.
ID. Now we can set offline user data to offline users and catch console
Music
Got
licensing
error.
reimagined.
error fetching offline people. Okay, let's see. Cool. All right. Now, actually, let's go back there. We didn't set the dependency, and this dependency
ArtList.io.
is going to be user IDs and UID. And now we can fetch data. Cool.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay. Now, let's come back here. Let's see. Actually, this is wrong. So that's why. Okay, I'm just noticing that. So this shouldn't be this. Okay. There we go. Okay.
Artlist.io.
Okay. Cool. All right, now we can put in what we need to put in here. So we can say h1 class name, capitalize, and here we're gonna say user.username. So let's see. Okay. And we can say selected user ID is equal to user.user ID. Then we can state button class name auto to text red 500 focus outline, it's going to be none.
Music licensing reimagined.
Cool. And we're going to have it on click. And give me 1 second while I explain this. So sorry if it's not going as smoothly right now, guys. It's just, this is a lot of code. And when I get stuck and I need to debug, it's just, it's like a clustered mine of code. So I just have to sit there and try and digest what's going on for a second. Let's see. Remove user from chat. So we're gonna, actually we don't need this right now. I can just show you what's going on first. So the unclick's gonna have nothing attached to it at this very point. So we can just close that.
Music licensing reimagined.
Here we can have the button. And we have the closing right there. Wait, what? Text red 500 outline focus. That's not supposed to be there. And that's not supposed to be there. Cool. Okay, so what this is saying is when we get something here, I still don't know why this isn't populating. So give me a second, let me figure that out. Oh, got it. So actually we'll just close out of this. So we never made that route. That's our problem. So now we have to go into route in views. Where's views? There we go. Route. And now we have to create the route because it's not getting the information from, it's not being routed. That's the problem. So we can come down here and say routes.get/people authenticate people. Let me save that. So let's try this again now. Let's go to inspect console. Let's go over to chat. There we go. And now I'm like, what's going on here? Well, we still not getting anything through, so let's see. Inspect. So 142. There we go. We have this data. So what is our offline users? Offline user
Artlist.io.
Okay, so after debugging, I kind of figured out the issue. So here, we should have this down here. Now let's
Music
see.
licensing reimagined.
Let's refresh this. Let's come over to chat. And let's see. Okay, so now there's actually an error. So what is our error this time?
Artlist.io.
Okay, so coming back here and seeing this can't use sort options with string. So this should just be options. So that was an error made. So let's see. So that should just be options. So now let's see if this
Music
clears
licensing
things up.
reimagined.
Okay, so it seems to work. Okay, so it seems to be working. Now it's just not displaying what we needed to display. So we've combated it. And now we just have to figure out why it's not showing us what we want it to show us. Okay, so after much debugging, the problem actually isn't that difficult to see after debugging it. So this should be that. This should be this. So let's see. There we go. So after all that time, that's all it took. So basically we made those changes, and then we just have to change this from a bracket to a parentheses, and the same thing here, and we're all set. So that's all we needed to do. So now when you type T, you see the two what's it called? The two profiles over here that you matched with. I believe they're also the only two in the database at this point also. So, and let's see if the handle click. Yeah, handle click does nothing at this point, which makes sense. So let's see. Yeah, that does nothing right now, which is fine. So what we want to see is just that we're able to get this. So also, let's see here. I believe we have the same problem here. So now this should fix the other problem. Cool. So now
Artlist.io.
Let's close out of this. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so this is fine. This is fine for right now. What we want to do is keep going, and now we're going to set the one up for offline user data map. So now we can come here. Let's see. Okay, so now we're just going to open up a new div here. And within this div, actually, it's not going to even be a div. Here, we're just going to have offline user data, and we're going to map through it. And this should say user. And let's not forget we're using parentheses. And here, we're going to be using div. Key here would be user dot ID. I'm gonna have the class name, and this should say
Artlist.io.
border B, border gray, 100, pattern Y of 2, pattern L of 4, flex item center, gap of 2,
Music licensing reimagined.
plus user dot ID is equal to selected user IDs, background blue, 200, rounded, large, width, full. And this should be
Artlist.io.
that. Cool. And here, we're gonna have the same thing as we did up there. Where is it? Yep, same capitalized, so H1.
Music licensing
Class name.
reimagined.
Capitalize. User dot first name. Now here we can say selected user ID is equal to user dot ID
Artlist.io.
So it's pretty much the same thing we did up top. We're just redoing it. Focus, outline.
Music licensing reimagined.
And for button, we're just gonna have the X. So let's see.
Artlist.io.
There we go. So now when we click on it, we click, did I not create the, oh, I didn't put the, that's fine. So I didn't give it an on-click yet, but that's pretty much what we want when we do this. So now I can also search test 3, and there it is.
Artlist.io.
Yeah, see? Yeah, so that's pretty much what we're looking for. Let's see. Yeah, so all we have to do is just fix that drop down. Okay, so after much debugging again, we just take this out. So you see where it says filtered users.map? We can take that whole logic out, and then it should end, this should end, this search suggestions.length should end within this relative div. So what we can do is, well, we can find where this ends, and we can take that out. And now let's come back here. Cool. And now we can place this here. And let's see. There we go. Yeah, that was the problem. So
Music licensing
we just
reimagined.
we had it within a div that shouldn't be in. So this div relative should only house this pattern to relative should only house search suggestions.length and search suggestions.map, and then this should be on its own. Cool. But they're all situated within this much more bigger div, this parent div. Okay, so that's that. So now what we have to do is there's two things we can do. We can either create the avatar now, but that's more of a cosmetic change, aesthetic addition. Let's keep going, and let's just create our we can create our message. So our message is going to go here, and our users are going to go here. So now we can go ahead and build that up. So to do that, what we want to do is create a we have handle message here, but okay, that's fine. We can stay with handle message, and then we'll create send message later. So let's go ahead and create the messaging column. Okay, so down here, what we're gonna do is say div class name, padding of 2, text center, margin top auto, and h1 class name, capitalize, and this should say user. So at the bottom here, it's going to tell us who's logged in, so who's user. So I'm logged in as test. This is going to tell me that I am user test down here, and that's about it. That's all we wanted to do. So now at the bottom here, let's see, yeah, right here, we want to say div class name, medium width of 3/5, flex column, height is full, background is blue, 300. And here we want to say div ID is equal to, we're going to call this chat container. And we're naming this ID for a specific reason, which we're going to see in the near future. Class name, flex, grow, overflow here. Y is going to be the same auto, and padding of 4. Cool. Let's see. Okay, so we're missing the width here being 3/5. There we go. That caused that. Now we can write our logic and say selected user IDs. If we have selected user IDs, then we want to state, so this is going to be div, this is going to be div, messages.map, message index, div key is equal to index. Class name is going to be flex plus, let's come over here and do this first. What do we have going on?
Artlist.io.
Cool. So let's do this. Okay. Plus, this should say message.sender is equal to UID. Then we want it to say justify end, and here we want to say justify start. What's going on? So index class name, blah blah blah, plus, okay. All right, where's the error here? Message index.
Artlist.io.
Okay, let's do this over because I don't see where the error is coming from, and I don't want to like debug it all over again. So message dot map message index.
Music licensing reimagined.
Cool. Now we have div. Okay. Here we have the key equal to index class name equal to
artlist.io.
flex plus message.sender is equal to UID. Then we want to say justify
Music licensing
end.
reimagined.
Justify end unless we're going to be, else we're going to be justify start. Okay, I don't know where that error was coming from earlier. Cool. So before this, what we can do is say another div.
Artlist.io.
Cool. And for this div, what we're going to say is class name. And here we're going to say max with
Artlist.io.
full. And the pattern's going to be 4 for a medium and up. Pattern's going to be 3 for regular. Pattern Y is going to be 2. Margin bottom is going to be 2. And a rounded large. And then we're going to say plus
Music licensing reimagined.
message.sender. And I'm going to explain this in a second. I just want to make sure I'm not typing out the wrong stuff here so I don't have to do much debugging later on. Blue 500, text white. And here, background blue, text white, background blue,
Artlist.io.
text gray, 500. Okay, now here we're gonna have H1 and it's gonna be message.text.
Reimagined.
Yeah, and here we're gonna have another div. And this is going to say class name, medium text is going to be 1.3 vmin. So medium screen and up. And every other screen is going to have 1.6 vmin. Text is going to be gray. And this is going to be 400. And this is where we're going to have the format timestamp, and it's going to say message dot created as. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, so what we're saying here is on this side, on the message side, if we're positioning the sender, so if whatever we're positioning where the message is going to come from. So if you're the sender, we're going to be positioning justify end. If not, we're going to be say justify start. Here we're saying if we're just giving it a class name, and it's the same thing applies. If you're the sender, then we're giving you a blue background with a white text. If not, you're a blue background with a gray text. And then we're going to show the message text, and within the border, we're also going to give it a format type, and it's going to be message.created at, but we're using this format timestamp, which we created up here. So now, in order to actually see this work, what we can do is create, actually, let's create the message here, the message type here. So we can keep going, and then we'll finish up in a second. So we're pretty much almost done with this. So let's see, this div is right here. Okay, so we have this div here, we have this div here. All right, let's do it from here. So now we can say selected user ID If we have that, then once again, div class name here, padding 4, flex items center, rounded
Music
large,
licensing reimagined.
width is full. And here we're just creating the class name that's going to be the parent. We're creating a parent class name for our input field, and this is going to be where we send the messages from. So input type is equal to text, value is equal to new. Yeah, that's fine. New message text. So that's going to be the value.
Artlist.io.
We don't have an unchanged yet, so we're just going to leave it at actually unchanged. We can just create it right now. So event is going to be set new message text event dot target
Music licensing reimagined.
value. Okay, and now we have placeholder, and this should say type your message here. Now we can have the class name, and this class name is going to say flex grow, pattern of 2, border rounded large,
Artlist.io.
focus outline none. That should be it. There we go. So that's that. Now we can create our search feature, also our search within it. Okay, so rather than typing all that out again, I just went ahead and copied it from my other project. So here we're just gonna have a button. So we're gonna create button, and then the type is gonna be submit. The class name is gonna be absolute. Right 4, top half, transform, negative translate on the y-axis half, background blue 500, pattern of 2, border rounded large, and text white. And then we have the send. So if we save that, okay, so we made an error somewhere. The error is from here. It shouldn't be relate, it should be relative.
Artlist.io.
There we go. So we have our send right there. So this is what our UI looks like. Our UX looks like. So if we say test, we still in, probably log out and log back in. Hold up.
Music
Something's off.
licensing reimagined.
Oh, okay. I got logged out. Cool. So now, if we go to chat, if I go to test 2, I'm right here with it, and it tells me to type in my message here. And also on the responsive tip, if I come over here, let's pick up Pro Max. Test at test.com, test. We log in here. If I go over to chat here, as you can see, test, bam, I'm still right there with it. So yeah, of course, there's a lot more you can do with the chat in terms of how it looks. But right now for this project, one, we already did a lot on it, so this is good enough. So now all we have to do is create our we just have to create the send message function here, and then we can roll with that. So we have to do the send message, and I believe create the controller for message here. So don't hate me, guys, but I know I said at the beginning this is going to be the end of it. It's not. We're going to go one more, and this isn't actually going to be too bad going one more, because the next one's definitely going to be the end of it, because all we're going to do is set up the logic for our messaging system. And I will be showing you, let's close out of this, and let's close out of that. Let's close Chrome. Let's open up this. and I will be showing you how to do this. So let's run this one. This is my main project. Run
Music
dev.
licensing reimagined.
No. Now, so on my next one, well, not my next one, the next part, I'm going to be showing you how to add these backgrounds to it. And place animations and make it look like this. So now there's some animation to it, see? So we're going to add these together and make it look nicer like this. And now in the chat also, actually, is there much to do in the chat? Not necessarily. So the chat's just gonna be the chat. All we have to do is add that functionality to it, that the send message functionality. So it's gonna be front end and back end working together. But we're gonna change this. We're gonna make it look nicer like this for our UI, for our UI UX. It's gonna look a little bit cleaner, a lot cleaner. And another great functionality is for the nav bar. Let's open this in mobile. Let's come over here. So as you can see in the nav bar, when you scroll now, that nav bar is gone. And then when you scroll back down, the nav bar comes back. So we're going to be implementing things like this in the next one. So for sure, the next one's the last one. I know I said that at the beginning of this one, but for sure, the next one's the last one. The only way it goes any further is if you guys want me to show you how to make this location feature, which basically right now it does nothing, but it's able to take your location. As you can see, I'm not going to show you where my location is, but you can see this this cursor here. It's saying this site can access your location. Yeah, this site can access your location. We're going to take this cursor, and what we're going to do with it is be able to populate the gym areas or whatever. If you're making this for basketball, you can make it basketball parks around you or whatever. That's going to populate here. We can do so much more with this, but that's if you like this video and get placed in the comment section that you want to do this. You want this feature added. If not, it's all good. We'll just end it at the chat feature with these animations and the nav bar going disappearing and coming back on. But yeah, so let's log out of here. Let's close Chrome. With all that said, let's clear out of this. With all that said, that's going to be it for this part of the video. The next part's just going to be us finishing up. So if you like this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.